Hello, adventurers. Welcome to today's episode. I am Dungeon Master Roy with Dark Alchemy, and today I'm joined by Charlie, the Inked GM. Hello, Charlie.
Hey, how are you, man? It's good to be here.
Good. Thank you for joining me on this show. Today we're going to talk about tattoos, Dungeons and Dragons, creating worlds, and a bunch of other stuff. But first, on this show, we always like to ask if you could share with us an interesting Dungeons and Dragons story. It could be anything.
Yeah, so recently I got to do Bird Quest, which is this awesome convention down in Williamsburg for the second year in a row. Last year, got to do a really cool private game for about 8 players at the table, and it was all player versus player combat. And typically, not something that most people like to do in a game because they're worried about tension and everything. But it was honestly such a fun game. We had and it was all people that were attending the con that had gotten the seat earlier and pre-ordered it, and we had a whole variety of people that had played since AD&D and had only been, there was like 2 people that this was like only their second or third game they've ever played, and it was so much fun just seeing all these people from different backgrounds and different experience levels with D&D just come in and together and having fun fighting each other, and one winner emerged and everybody was so excited at the end. It was one of the best games I've ever gotten to play, and very excited that I got to go back to Bird Quest. So
that's awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that story. It sounds really cool. So that begs the first question: are you a forever game master or a forever dungeon master, or are you also a player?
yeah, so I am a player right now in a campaign. Unfortunately, I've had to miss a number of sessions, but no, I honestly, I just love playing D&D, especially in this homebrew setting of mine that I have called Adventures After an Arcane Apocalypse. It's just so much fun, and I just love running games in there and getting to bring people into that world and space. So some people I know, you ask them, they're like, oh, are you a forever GM? And they can be a little bitter about it. But honestly, I really love it. And I am lucky and fortunate to currently be in a campaign I get to play in about once a month.
That's awesome. Well, I have a bunch of questions, but since you mentioned that, let's start off where we can find you. You're available on Instagram, of course. That's at Inked GM. That's INKED GM, Inked GM. Also on TikTok, Threads, and YouTube. And then on Twitch, you're actually the Inked Game Master.
Yep. I try to keep everything consistent, but that was the one place where that handle had already been taken. So
yeah, same with us with Dark Alchemy LTD, Dark Alchemy Limited. There's a bunch of Dark Alchemies, a bunch of different meanings for it. There's magic mushrooms and all sorts of like dark art and stuff. But we want to be Dungeon Dragon, so we did the LTD on the end of it. Nice. So before we jump into the Arcane Apocalypse, how long have you been playing Dungeons and Dragons? What was your kind of first edition?
It was 5th edition was the first one that I got to play, and playing now for about 5 years or so. Not too long.
You're kind of a newcomer to the world. How did you fall into it? How did that come about?
Yeah, so it was actually it might be about 6 years now, but either way, it really was a good friend of mine who's a game master and has been for a really long time, was starting a new campaign with another one of my close friends, and he reached out to me and said, he's like, hey, he's like, you love to write, you're very creative, I think you would really enjoy playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I was like, it's something I've always been curious about, wanting to get into. I tried as a kid, and just wasn't the best experience, but it wasn't because anything was wrong with D&D. It was just the crowd that I was in. And I was like, well, this is one of my best friends and his best friend. I think this is a great place to jump in. And that's exactly what happened. We dove in head first, started at level 1. And then in about just under 3 years, we went all the way to level 20. And it was the best experience. So ever since then, I've been addicted.
That's awesome. And so you started as a player, then you slowly switched into being a game master and kind of running both roles. So with the name, the Inked GM, we have a little logo here. Tell me kind of about how that name came about. You have a few tattoos. Is it is it bringing the tattoo culture to Dungeons and Dragons?
It's a few things. That was one of the goals. I love tattoos. Fun fact, like for my first tattoo that I ever got, and I'll show it a little bit in a minute. I went and wanted to do a nice traditional style tattoo that had a lot of meaning, and I looked for a long time trying to find the right tattoo artist when I was in high school, and eventually found the right tattoo artist shortly after going into college, and drove like 4 hours to go there for the first session. We ended up taking 3 sessions to finish it, and really nice guy. And I think I did pretty good research and scouting for the right traditional tattoo artist, because he ended up winning. I think it was season 6 or 7 of Ink Master.
Oh, cool! I watch it all the time. I'm a fan.
Yeah. So yeah, really awesome guy. Dave Krusman, if you might recall him. But really great guy. He did my first tattoo, and I'll show it off. It's a traditional style, kind of a.
Let's remove this and let's make a big day. Oh, that looks really good. Oh, nice artwork.
Yeah,
also very colorful.
Yeah, got a kraken and the nautical star and compass rose.
So if you were a monk in Dungeons and Dragons, and that particular tattoo was a magical tattoo, what do you think it would do for you based on that design?
Based on that design, so I think aesthetically, definitely you're looking at the kind of traditional style that it came from. So probably going to give me something like ability to walk on water, breathe underwater. The meaning behind it, though, is really, really sentimental for me as an individual. And probably I would say it would be like Death Ward.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Bonus on death saving throws?
No, I mean, bonus on death saving throws, or just straight, Death Ward of, get to 0 hit points and it brings you back 1 hit point.
Oh, I like that. I like that. You'd be hardy like an orc.
Yeah,
that's awesome. So, what are some of your favorite characters to play? Then, do you like the monk? Would you play a tattoo build? We have one monk in our campaign named Kuma. We have our own world of Erendor, and the dead professor, my fellow Dark Alchemist Scott, said, "Hey, have you looked into the magical tattoos? There's one that gives you like a 15-foot reach when you throw the punch."
Yeah,
when you throw the punch, and we kind of regret, because he's like so powerful now. He flies in the air. He's punching down, and it's reaching, and he's doing bonus damage. So, is that a build you like, or do you tend to go towards some other characters?
Honestly, I've I think I've played every single class at this point except Sorcerer. I think that's the only class that I have left. But I love all of them, honestly, and I'm working on with my hopefully coming to a Kickstarter next year. Ventures After Arcane Apocalypse will have a number of custom subclasses that will be tattoo oriented, and have some thematic elements there. But honestly, my personal favorite, I'm biased simply because it's what I went from in my very first campaign from level 1 to 20 as a paladin. It was so much fun, and I really like quarter and half casters. That also can do melee. It just gives you a lot of versatility in whatever kind of encounter you're coming up against. I know some people like to build something for a specific type of encounter, or be a specific aspect in battle, but I'm very much the hop in wherever is needed or necessary, or wherever we're lacking in. So
before we get to the Arcane Apocalypse, what was that like to go from level 1 to 20 with a paladin? Because not everybody makes it to level 20. I think my favorite levels are 4 to 6. Once you get past like 12, we played a high level campaign at convention level 12. We were pretty powerful. As a game master, it becomes challenging to really balance a mega amount of powers unless you're putting me against like some really huge and dangerous creatures.
Yeah, well, it's pros and cons, right? The way I feel is all the levels have pros and cons. I'm with you. I really think role play wise, I tend to prefer the lower levels, just because they're more. And it's not even just the mechanics of your levels, but also typically your story or narrative tends to be more of like more of a stranger, nobody, adventurer from far away, rather than somebody of big, powerful influence and intrigue. And that provides its own social challenges.
Yeah.
But honestly, I really loved playing from 1 to 20. It was so cool, and I made sure to stay in one class. I didn't want a multi-class simply because I just wanted to really see that narrative all the way through.
Yeah.
And I thought it was so much fun. It was really cool to see how my play style changed as I leveled up, the different spells and abilities that I relied on when
Yeah.
I had other strengths and feats, and especially with paladins, the auras that helped
Yeah.
alleviate some of the other things. Um, but it was a ton of fun. It really was.
Yeah.
And getting to level 20 to get to do the big abilities and go in and do a smite for like over 100 damage. It
Yeah,
was
it feels really
awesome.
heroic, right?
It does. It
Yeah.
was cool.
Okay. Do you remember what subclass that was for the paladin?
I want to say it was Oath of Devotion.
Okay.
It was very classic. Oh
Yeah.
no, I
And
take it back. I take it back. I started off as Oath of Devotion, but it was a long campaign, and my
yeah.
character actually ended up dying like 5 or 6 times. And started off as a human, went to was then reincarnated as I think the second time around was a tiefling, and then a dragonborn. And then technically I didn't reincarnate the fourth time into a Leonin, rather than my soul took over a Leonin's body who was a cultist for Tiamat. It was a whole thing. It was
It almost sounds like this is like an eternal paladin, an eternal warrior kind of storyline, like an Elric. Like he just keeps coming back to fight whatever devotion or mission he was on. That's pretty cool. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. So let's jump into this possible Kickstarter next year. We have the adventures in the Arcane after an Arcane Apocalypse. So kind of tell me what your kind of goal is for this on Kickstarter, and maybe just a little bit about the world, or kind of what the apocalypse was, if you can share that. I don't want to give away any trade secrets. Yeah.
No, honestly, so I've got probably about 150 pages worth of lore and magic spells, NPCs, magic items, customized monsters, totally homebrewed monsters. The idea of it was I wanted to, because I feel like a lot of times when people start out getting into as a GM, they start out because act of necessity. And I really had this world and a story that I really wanted to engage with and jump into, re-envisioning the world as Earth after an arcane apocalypse, and there I can set it in the material plane, and it makes all 50 years of D&D canon. I read the Dungeon Master Manual, and the first time I did, when it talked about making your own campaign, it said pick a thematic element from a movie or a book, something in media that you really like, from art, and center your world around that. And I was like, but that doesn't feel real. That doesn't feel immersive to me. You look at our Earth, our world that we live in, right? And it's not homogenous. It's so rich and diverse and full of all kinds of lived experiences and vast and rich histories. There's just no way that I feel like it can be encapsulated around just one thematic element. And so I thought, well, rather than create a whole world with all of this, try to replicate what we currently experience, what if we just took Earth and put it 5 centuries into the future after an arcane apocalypse, and tie it into the material world? And what I really like about it, and what my players love about it, in all the professional games that I run, is that even for new players who are totally new to D&D or have done some other things before, there's an immediate buy-in, because you can easily put yourself into this environment. You have some degree of familiarity to it, rather than sometimes I hear from new D&D players, they feel that there's a hurdle, and like they need to know some lore in order to be a good and engaged player at the table to contribute. And this way they already, and especially for players that struggle with imagination and immersion and getting involved in the role play, there's already some experiences and things that they're going to be familiar with and things that they can contribute. And
so let me ask you this.
yeah,
Earth 500 years in the future is an Arcane Apocalypse.
yeah.
So this is our Earth, and with like skyscrapers and buildings, everything blows up. So are there remnants of our Earth? Does a subway system become a dungeon? Do magical creatures appear? What is kind of like the lore of that?
So it is really exciting, and I I could honestly talk about it, and hence the reason it's going to come to a Kickstarter, and I imagine it's going to be a series of different books, kind of like you have with the D&D editions, right? You have
Well, yeah,
a
give us
dungeon.
the cliff note version of it, because
Yeah,
we can have you back on when the Kickstarter to talk
yeah,
about it, definitely. But just kind of give us like a little taste of what it's like to be 500 years after the Arcane Apocalypse.
yeah. It's a I think the thing that I like most about it is I tell my players in our session 0 is that you're existing in a world where magic is heavily available and prevalent, but people are so, and I say people not in the sense of Homo sapiens, but mortals,
Yeah,
right? All kinds of different species and different creatures that now inhabit this space. Um, but all of them are still very limited in the amount of knowledge that's accessible to them,
hmm,
magical components that are available, as well as the overall knowledge that is
yeah,
shared. There is no, supreme university of arcana that tells
yeah,
people, hey, here is the ceiling for magic. It's
yeah, yeah,
only ninth level spells.
yeah.
So with that, people don't know the limit of the potential, and it's very open ended because of that. So I've brought back a lot of things from older D&D, like the uh, I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but the mega magic spells that are
Mhm.
above ninth level,
Yeah.
the ability to homebrew. I have a whole system to how you can
Okay.
homebrew your own spells,
Yeah.
and
Yeah, because there's no arcane university or college of magic that is actually teaching people, right? They're kind of finding themselves. I mean, by
yeah,
that point, there might be some teachers, but there's nothing established, and maybe the
not
person can
yeah,
can
not
can go
globally.
beyond that. Yeah.
Yeah, not globally, that has set these parameters and set this impression of, here's what to strive for
Mhm.
and what the highest level of achievement is. And it varies from place to place. There are areas that have done a really good job of adapting to the new environment and have settled in a kingdom and a region for the last 2-3 centuries. There are
Yep.
other places where people are holed up still in bunkers, generations left beyond that are just twisted and no idea what's going on above the surface. One of my favorite cities is actually called a city called Chikatoshi.
Okay.
That is it's a 3-mile wide geode underground, a
Yeah.
city that's encapsulated in that, and
Mhm.
they've found a way to really travel all over the material plane and still maintain their secrecy on Earth in this secret society below low ground. But yeah, there's all kinds of things. You have um, lunar giants. I brought
Okay.
some of those in there. There's just so much rich D&D history in 50 years, and there's so many great third-party elements and
Mhm.
additional expansions that have been created. So I wanted to create a place where players can um, be familiar with different things. I tell my players in their session 0, you create whatever character you want. There's no limitations.
Yeah.
No limitations on source material. If you want to homebrew a class, let's work on it and talk about it. You want to bring in, you want to do an official D&D subclass, but you want to do a third party species.
Mhm.
That's totally fine. Create
So
whatever you want,
when
and
you
I've created a place
create
for it.
when you created a world, did you start with an idea of the lore, or was it more geography and history, or did you pull from like mythology or pop culture? Like, what was kind of the starting foundation of this,
The-
or maybe like Fallout, kind of post-apocalyptic? Like, what was your initial inspiration to create the world in this style?
So the truth of it is all of it.
Okay.
um, I it it really stemmed from the fact of I had this dream one night of an arcane apocalypse, and I just started to, just days and weeks after that, just kind of mulling it over in my head of like, what would that world look like, several centuries after. And my background is actually I used to work in higher education, did a lot of advocacy work, and my bachelor's is in political science. And I really love just thinking about the psychology and the sociology impacts of different things. And I was like, what would mortals do if suddenly they realized, whoa, there's worlds out there, there's other planes of existences out there. Magic was not a creative story, but just a myth that we had forgotten how real and impactful it was, and creating an arms race politically of magical items and spells versus modern human ingenuity, and
Well,
how those things coalesce.
I think that answers the question, because you just said, there's a couple of key points there, right? It's a sociology issue, it's an arms race issue, and it's the question of magic. We took a class at one of the conventions. I'm not sure if it was, I think maybe last Gen Con or one of them. And it was a world building class. And the guy who taught it was excellent. He was a retired general, an author, and he helped create worlds for a bunch of different games. And he said every world has a secret. And in Game of Thrones, the secret was there's a comet. And I read the first 2 books and watched the show. And I had never heard about the comet, but it's actually just in the background. When the comet leaves, the dragons get smaller and magic disappears. When the comet returns, as it was in the initial Game of Thrones season, when the White Walkers start coming back and the dragons start growing big, the comet was returning, and that's what's bringing magic back. So that was the secret of that world. We have a world, Erendor, and I don't want to give our secret away, but we have a secret in that world. Something's happening to cause what's causing. You can or don't have to share it, but is there a secret in your world that's driving the arcane apocalypse or driving the magic coming back? Is there a secret somewhere there?
So,
or do you have an idea where it came from?
So, great question. And I love that idea of, that there is, some kind of deep mystical aspect that impacts the physics and the arcana and the livelihoods of these people. The biggest way I can explain that is I wanted to keep it vast and complex, because that's how we are, as individuals. We're not just siloed into a singular box. And so I wanted to keep the world and all the universes and all the planes the same way. I didn't want to simplify it by any means. I wanted to magnify it, if anything. And the biggest way that I kind of put is when I get asked by players about morality, I tell them morality is more of a matter of perspective rather than law. When with any war, right, any opposition, any conflict that we've ever experienced as individuals, right, it's not a matter of truthfully who is right or wrong, but rather a matter of who's on what side of that conflict. Because one side very much looks at their side as the ones being right, and versus the other side, they very much feel that they're in the right and they're doing what needs to be done. And it's the same thing in this world too. So what's a matter of, a belief of where magic comes from is very much a matter of the perspectives of the individuals, of the societies, of the histories that have influenced those. A matter of perspective based on the planes of existence, right? The chaotic planes would argue very differently about how important their magic is and where it comes from versus the celestial planes and things like that. But at the same time, that's also to be said, this world is meant to be a way for GMs to create a very living, immersive world where there's all kinds of conflict, and it's not so much the players trying to find a solution to one thing, but rather a place where they truly can just go and adventure and engage with whatever it is that they're interested in. There's what there is to be saved or what there is to be damned and conquered is strictly the limitations of what their interests are in. And that's what I tell my players. If you guys want to just go around all the different planes of existence, creating a big zoo of all the different creatures that you can collect. Go for it. If you guys want to completely destroy the planet and try to conquer the material plane, absolutely go for it. If you want to usurp the throne of the Roman pantheon, gods that have now come back to be worshipped by mortals on Earth, that's fine too. Whatever you want to do.
How much notice do you need? So we have our forever dungeon master. I mean, I run it too, and Scott runs sometimes, but that's he's not available tonight. DM Evanson. He's a DM_Evanson on Instagram. I think he's actually running. I don't know. He does Shadowrun and 2 D&D games. He's pretty busy, but so he likes to know at the end of a session, hey, which way you guys go? When you go into the forest, you can go back into the Feywild, going back to the castle. Just give him an idea, because sometimes he's prepared stuff. He's had a whole board. And speaking of boards, we'll put a board up here. Well, let's remove this here. We're going to put a board up with a dragon and take a look at this and talk about this. He had a whole board prepared, and he had to cover with a sheet. I want to say for 6 months in his house. And finally, we're like, we're going to go here. He's like, oh, thank God, finally. And he puts the board out. So how much notice as a game master do you need, or how do you kind of have that conversation? Hey, guys, you can do whatever you want, but I kind of need to know what you want to do so I can prepare that storyline.
None.
Honestly, you're just off the top of the head.
Yeah, we're just running through it. Like I said, I've got at this point probably about 150 pages of lore that's already written down and everything, and they're sectioned out in different parts and areas of the world, both Earth and also the different planes. So it's really up to them, whatever they want to do. And that's what I tell them. And it's just so much fun. And I could play. I love doing weekend games as well, where we just play D&D for, from like 10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Wow.
And just see where we go. Yeah.
The golden age for you.
Yeah.
So how important is theater of the mind to you versus setting up terrain? This looks like an epic board. You have this huge red dragon on a lava field. I don't know what terrain company this is. We 3D print terrain, and we kind of sell some stuff. We have some licensed products.
So
tell me about this board.
This is actually Dwarven Forge with Wizards of the Coast minis, including an ancient red dragon right there. Gotta love that. And this is actually at Tower of Games here in Virginia Beach. I was running a number of games out of their store. With a couple different campaigns, and this is at a Weather Dragon table. And
we interviewed Mike of the Weather Dragon.
Mike is a great guy.
Amazing table. Shout out to the Weather Dragon. That's Weather Dragon. TheWeatherDragon.com. You can find him at all the conventions, and he has amazing tables. He might have a backlog, but definitely contact him and ante up that money, because the tables are just stunning. Check our previous episode for that.
They are.
So tell me about this setup here. What was going on in this adventure? And did the players enjoy the terrain setup, or did they prefer the theater? I always like the tactical stuff.
Yeah, so I really like in-person gaming. But I really feel that whether you're doing in person or if you're doing it virtual and you have a virtual tabletop or it's just all audio, at the end of the day, everything you're doing has some element of theater of the mind, right? Because we're scaling, we are doing different perspectives. This is not, like a virtual reality setup where, they've got goggles and this is 100% all they're seeing. There's always going to be a level of disassociation that you have to do to immerse yourself into this. And that is elements of theater of the mind. But I really like doing tabletop terrain and doing terrain setups for 2 reasons. One, they're so much fun. They add to that immersion. They add and enhance the theater of the mind experience. They give tangible perspectives and excuse me. They give points of relation that multiple people at the table can sit and all look at and say, okay, this is where we're going. This is what we're focused on. Having a grid out, I know helps. I've had a variety of different players at my games, and having that grid is sometimes the only way for some players to really feel and understand spatially what they can do and what's available to them. So I've always found it to be a helpful aid. I've never had a player that has said, hey, this is detracting from my experience at the table. And then secondly, it looks cool. It looks really cool. And especially when I get to run games at Tower Games or some private games, and I run them through Rogue Game Masters. Chris has this amazing collection of Dwarven Forge that we use. And the players, they always really enjoy it. They love to get to take pictures of it. And other people like to come around and see what's going on. And it's just a lot of fun. It just is, getting to come together with people and just kind of forget about the rest of the world and dive into another one and just focus on that. And it's just a lot of fun.
Yeah, awesome.
But yeah, that other encounter, that was it was a really fun one where the players were being tested by their god. And there was now unfortunately Chris does not have an ancient gold dragon, but scale wise we're going to use the ancient red dragon that he does have. And so this is they were fighting in the crater of a hollowed out volcano down at the bottom, and it was an epic encounter. And so their god was testing them with an ally of theirs, which was the ancient gold dragon, and it was a really fun encounter.
It is Dungeons and Dragons, and there are lots of monsters and lots of creatures, but at some point it's nice when your characters actually fight a dragon. It's
always
it's on the artwork. It's on. I mean, you look right behind on the Dungeon Master screen here. There's a giant dragon flying towards you. So. And if they get beat up a little bit, that's just part of the game, right? Hopefully they're high enough level by that point. You seem pretty involved in the storytelling aspect of it, and you actually are on another podcast, or you co-host. Is that the Storycrafters?
Yes. It's a really fun thing that was started by Jeff of Jeff Rogers Gaming, and we have two other co-hosts, Nicole, Game Master Mom, and Jared, World's Okayest Crafter. The idea was wanting to come together as GMs that, we don't do as much as we would love to. We don't do D&D for a living. And we have our own 9-to-5s and other commitments that we have outside of the game table. And we get to come together and talk about what we've been up to. We do a little deep dive into one area of D&D lore. And then we have a D100 table that we roll and determine what our topic will be for the next episode.
That's cool. I like that.
And we talk about that. And what's cool is we get to all bring a different perspective, both in our experiences as game masters, our experiences as individuals, and our experiences as players in the different games that we've been in. And so it's just a nice place specifically for GMs, just to kind of hear the other GMs come together and talk shop and just share things that went well, didn't go well, tips and tricks, curiosities, ask questions. I find a lot of resources online tend to be player focused, which is perfectly fine. That is the vast majority of D&D, right? It is majority players, not GMs.
We also need to encourage people to become game masters, dungeon masters, even if they take a turn at it, especially if they're younger and you have a play group. Just say you have, kids, maybe 14, 15, they all want to play. But we met some younger kids at the table at Dark Alchemy. We're at the Long Island Tabletop Convention, and they were excited. I had one young lady, she was like 14 or 15. She was excited to tell her experience as a game master. And then the other boy said, "Oh, then I took a turn," and they kind of rotated around. And they need to do that. It's good for reading. It's good for their math. It's good for their creativity. But you also have to encourage people to become game masters so the hobby can continue. If only 1 in 10 people are game masters, then everybody's like, I want to play a game. Well, you guys got to take turns. Maybe you do it for a couple months, you do it for a couple months. And a channel like yours, I'll go back up this logo. That's the Storycrafters. A channel like the Storycrafters is maybe a good resource for game masters to get the information or the tips and tricks that they need to start running. And the easiest way is just to start. We were talking in the green room. You picked up the new copy of the Stranger Things board game. Stranger Things, board game. Anything you want to hold it up for the for the people there? So
I
welcome to I got the Hellfire Club shirt on. I'm
yeah,
representing tonight
there we
too, and
go.
you got that. So I'm excited to pick that up myself, just as a collectible. And we were thinking of doing not an unboxing, but almost just kind of going over what's in it, because you either buy the main books, the Dungeon Master Guide, Monster Manual, Player's Handbook, or you get like a starter set like that. And
Mhm.
that's maybe a better entry point for somebody younger.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's got several different adventure modules in there that are low level, like 1 through 3.
Yep.
But for anybody that's a fan of the show, what's really cool is it has also built character sheets for the
The
characters in the
original
show, their
characters,
players. Um,
the characters from the actual people, right? That, like, the one kid is like, I'm a wizard, and he talks about his
mhm.
wizard in the show, especially that
Yep.
first season. They start talking about the characters, right? Yeah, yeah,
Yep. Yeah, Will's wizard is in there, and you have his character sheet with all his stats and everything. And
that's
it's
funny.
it's really cool. It's a fun box, and I really like it. They had one that they had released previously that was not so much focused on the Hellfire Club, but more focused on in the first season, right? When the kids are together,
Yeah.
are playing. It's focused on that narrative. This one is really cool because it's focused on the Hellfire Club perspective,
Mm,
and all the seasons 1 through 4, kind of how that has influenced Eddie as the game master and passing the
yeah,
mantle on to the next game master.
yeah.
And
Oh, cool.
so, yeah, it
Well,
creates a really
that's
nice
just
immersive element.
what we were talking about, passing the
Yeah,
mantle to the next game
yeah.
master. The thing. So for people who are interested in doing professional game mastering, or maybe at the very least paid game mastering, can you talk maybe 2-3 minutes about that? Just about what your experience has been, whether it was paid game mastering at a store, at a private event, or with rogue game masters.
Yeah, so with Rogue Game Masters is where I do a majority of my paid games. And but I've also done some conventions and cons, and done some private games as well. It's so much fun. And at first I was really hesitant about it because I was worried. I was like, am I going to be good enough? And is it fair to have people pay to play? But what I've found out is through all the games that I've done, it's really really nice because for a lot of players, there's a few different elements that can make just your meeting consistently difficult, right?
Yeah.
First and foremost, everybody's got obligations. Everybody's got stuff that they've got going on.
Mhm.
And that can make, meeting up regularly hard.
Yeah.
However, when you buy a ticket to go to see a movie at the movie theater, you're really committing yourself to going and seeing it at that day and time versus when you've got it on your watch list on your streaming service,
Yeah.
and like, yeah, maybe this weekend, maybe Tuesday night, something comes up, and next thing you know, you haven't seen it, for a couple of
Yeah.
weeks. And sometimes that can kind of happen also with games with friends and family. It
Yeah.
certainly has happened to me a ton. And that was one of the big reasons I got into this. Was I wanted to play more D&D, and I really wanted to play in this world that I was making. And I was
Yeah.
like, well, if I sign up for this, it wasn't a matter of me making money for it, and I'm fortunate that that wasn't the case. It was
Yeah.
more so of like, I want to find more players to
Mhm.
to meet up with. And so when people are paying to play, they make the arrangements on their end to be there with the assumption, right, and the guarantee that I, as the game master, am going to do everything on my end to
Yeah.
show up, set up, run the game, and take care of everything in between now and the next one.
Yeah.
And so that's what I do. And that's really nice for a lot of players who don't have the time to host, right? Because
Yeah.
having your space, to, even if you're not the GM and you're a player, but you're allowing your space, your home, to be used
Yeah.
for people to come over, that's a big commitment in itself.
Yeah. It
Um,
is. It
and
is.
and and that can be tough. And so sometimes it's way easier for players to go, okay, I'm just gonna go here after work and just go and play, or we'll get a babysitter just for a couple hours. We don't have to worry about anybody who's got, pet allergies or anything else.
Yeah.
We go and meet in a neutral space and support a small business,
Yeah.
and meet there. for a couple hours, and it works for so many people in their schedules and is really beneficial. And then the other thing that's really nice too, and I know every game master has had this at least once or twice at the start of a session, when everyone is around the table, they're talking about this and current events, or this that's going on in their life.
It always happens at the beginning of the night. Yep, at the beginning of the night. They want to talk about the day.
You're sitting there, you're like, okay, I know everybody's like, very engaged and excited to see each other and catching up and everything, but I'm really excited and want to play. And sometimes, life can also derail the sessions too, where something in session comes up and they're like, that reminds me, how is, Cindy doing on that, with that new thing going on? And then suddenly we're pulled out of the D&D session. So what I find is with the paid games is that I create a space on Discord for them to chat. Nobody's using their personal numbers. Nobody's using their social media. Everybody is just chatting just in the Discord. And so it creates already, before they've even met, an environment where everybody who's there, they're focused on D&D. And so when they come, I've already set up the space, set up the table, got everything ready. So when they show up, we're there to play D&D, and everybody is there to play D&D. And
do you hit that button at the beginning? The music starts, like you hit the you hit the button, and all of a sudden, you hear and then you're like, okay, guys, put your phones down. The music's starting. Time to play.
And it's really nice, and for a lot of people, that's also really what they have found to be really nice about these paid games versus their home games, is that with your home games, you're with your friends. That's great.
Yeah.
You can't beat that. But sometimes it's also just really just to show up and just play D&D, and that's the only expectation of the evening, is that you're going to play D&D. You don't have to worry about talking about anything else, dealing with anything else. You just get to show up and just play D&D, and that's all your shared experiences with the other people at the table, and that's really freeing in a way.
For your conventions and then for your other events, it seems like you'll do some campaign type of settings where you have some repeat customers. But for your one shot specifically, whether it's a convention or somebody hires you for a one shot, is there certain events you run? Do you do your world, or do you kind of ask them, hey, do you guys want mystery? Do you want action? I have some one shots in my mind that we like to run, but what do you like to run, Charlie?
So it depends on the environment. For conventions, there's definitely a few one shots that I've made that tend to go very well for people to just pick up and jump into. For private games, I leave it up to the players, and I ask them. I have a couple, kind of like a session 0 and a session 0.5, and work with them to figure out, what do you guys want to do? I had one group that was like, hey, we want to be in whatever you have to run. We just wanted to come together. We haven't hung out in a long time, and we just really wanted to everybody's kind of spread out across the country now, and so we just really wanted a nice long session just to play D&D together, whatever it was. And then sometime we had another one where it was going to be a surprise birthday party, so we kind of we made a one shot that was kind of themed to kind of match that kind of element.
Cool.
I had another one that was it was a bridal group, so it was the groom and the bride to be and their bridal party, and we did a one shot. And so I made a one shot that was themed around a royal wedding, and that was really fun. So I try to, when it comes to the private games, I have a little bit more flexibility because I have extended amounts of communication with them to kind of feel it out. But for the conventions, I have a number of one shots that I've made that I try to run there. And it's more so with that, it's just kind of, what do people want to do? And also, what do I want to do? Sometimes I've run a number of campaigns and sessions and one shots and haven't really had any good carnage and combat. And so it's like, okay, let's do something that is real heavy. Like, let's go fight a Tarrasque. Let's set that up as Tarrasque hunting as the one shot session. And sometimes, I haven't been able to explore a certain area in my world in a while that I really miss. And so I might offer that. or
Okay, I like
it's
that.
like, oh, this convention is very big on escape rooms and solving puzzles. That's a big
Yeah,
thing for a lot of people that attend that. So I'll do something that is more mystery centric,
I
and
like that.
something for the players to delve
Mhm.
into, rather than it being really combat crunchy.
We're coming up on our time limit here, so we'll do our lightning bolt round. I'll just ask you a bunch of questions, answer them as best you can
Yeah.
off the top of your head. Are you a dice goblin? You know, lots of dice.
I have more dice than I need. And at the same time, I have been very good about saying no sometimes, simply because my wife and I, we live in a 1-bedroom apartment, and so I've only got so many places to put dice.
That's it. That's it. Hide them under the bed. You won't even feel them.
Yeah.
Like the princess and the pea. Favorite class?
It is at the end of the day, it is just paladin. It's just so
Awesome.
much fun.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Yep. Yep. If you were a wizard, and you only cast one spell. You have the spell forever. What would your spell be, Charlie? Your at will spell,
Wow,
just for Charlie.
man. So not one that is a published spell. It can be something that I just make up in my
Hey,
head.
listen, it's your answer, Charlie. It's you create your own world. You can create your own damn spell.
Yeah. Okay. Um, it would be some kind of vitality spell, so that my wife and I's dog Toby can be with us for all of our adventures.
Oh, I like that. That's a
Yeah.
good one. That's a good one. Favorite. Do fourth level. Favorite fourth level monster to fight, or first to fourth. Favorite low level monster to throw against your players. Because the big ones are easy, dragon, thoracic stuff.
Yeah.
But what's a good monster to throw against a low level that you enjoy throwing against them?
Um, Honestly, so it's mechanically and aesthetically.
Yeah,
It's a. I just did a post about this the other week, and I love them. Are shambling mounds. Um,
yeah,
I love shambling mounds. I think they're so much fun. I love painting them. They're so cool.
yeah,
But they have a nice versatility to them. I always love something that can do a grapple, that can take a party member away, and makes the party kind of think, okay, how are we going to engage with this without hurting our ally?
yes,
And something that is hardy and beefy,
yeah,
and can take some hits, but it's also not anything that is going to drop an entire party member in one
yeah,
round.
yeah, yeah.
And but also something that's not too sentient, because then when it is sentient, you get into again, that morality and psychology of like,
We got to
should
tie
we
him
be
up,
doing
take a
this? Why are we doing
prisoner.
this? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just a monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like
Yeah.
that. And I had my other question in mind. Oh, I got two more. One, so when I roll my dice,
Mm.
I feel like there's magical areas in the table. Some areas roll better. Do you have any dice superstitions?
I don't have any dice superstitions, honestly, but I do, like, I really like to roll my dice in the dice tray that my wife got me.
Oh, there you
So
go. I like
I've
that.
had it. She got it for me when I was a player, and it's just been through and traveled with me to everything. And so I will roll dice, on a whim, on the table, right in front of everyone,
Yeah.
at the game. But yeah, I do. I love to use that and bring it with me, even
Uh,
if it's just a hassle to lunk it around with everything. I still.
I love it. I love it. And last question, you can recall like the strangest thing you've ever really come across when as a dungeon master now, as a game master,
Mm,
you're at one of these paid games, you're at a convention, and just somebody does something you're like, I'll give you an example from me, right? So Scott was playing a super powerful character, and he's very smart. He knows how to, all the min maxing, and he's fighting. And there's like one thing left, and I kind of felt like I was his brother in the game. I was a tiefling warlock. I had this magical amulet that I could throw ferrets or squirrels at people, or woodchucks or something like that. And he did so much. I'm like, well, I guess you don't need me. So I tried to use this amulet, and it went bad. I fell down the hill, and the beavers miss, and it was just a whole chaotic thing. I tend to cause some chaos.
mm.
Have you come across anything strange that you're like, what is this person thinking? But it turned out to be funny anyway.
Well, Two things come to mind. One, not so much strange, but it was so epic because you've seen, I'm sure, run into some, whether it's been a 10-second conversation or, a whole YouTube video talking about the mechanics of dropping a bag of holding into another bag and creating this
vortex or explosion.
vortex and astral gate. I did have a session where that was done, and it was so cool, and it was really cool just to see everybody at the table just like, like, this has only been theory, never did I think we would ever do this. It was a really cool moment because everybody at that table were really seasoned players that had been playing for years or decades or over different editions. And it was really cool to have them all have this moment where it was like, your first time as a player, right? When you got to actually encounter a dragon or a beholder, and you're like, whoa, this is only something I've only read about. Like, this is the first time actually encountering it. And it was a really cool thing to see all these people that, have had just about every experience in D&D thrown at them. That was the first time they all had experienced that, and it blew their minds, and they were having so much fun with it.
And as a game master, you had to figure, okay, take a second, what I'm actually doing with this, how much is it going to do? Like, you had to come with that on the fly, like, what's really going to happen, and they're really doing it. Okay, guys, you want to do it? Here it goes.
Yeah, it was great. It was awesome. We had people just screaming and crying at the table. It was great.
And was there a second last thing you wanted to share, or was that enough?
Yeah, there was another one that was really good. So I had a player who was really, he wasn't playing a bard, but he was trying to do a lot of the stereotypical bard things, we'll say.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, why are you doing this? Like, this is not what anybody, nobody at the table is interested in this. Nobody, like this, you're just doing it yourself for, your own laugh. Okay. So he tried to pull one of those moments. And so I told him, I was like, okay, I'll tell you what, go ahead. You want to try? Basically they wanted to kiss an NPC without asking for consent first. And so I said, go ahead, make a dexterity check, right? You're trying to catch someone off guard, right? Like, even like if you're trying to pickpocket someone, right?
Yeah.
We're gonna
of lips.
Yeah, we're gonna start there. Now, in my mind, the NPC, she's one of the heads of the guard. And so I was like, really what this dexterity check is gonna prove, because she's gonna roll hers and he doesn't know her stats, but she's definitely gonna beat him, and it's just a matter of like how bad is he gonna get hurt, kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Well, he ends up rolling a nat 1. And I was like,
ooh, fun.
Okay.
Fun time for the dungeon master.
Yep. So I was like, okay, we're just going to keep it real simple. We're looking at the terrain. Where he was standing was, just a couple, like he was up on a little bit of a stage. There was a few steps. Yeah. And I said, you fall flat in her face. That one, that's what happened. You're going to go down the steps to meet her. You fall flat down on your face. And you won't take fall damage, right? But you will take 1d4 of damage, right?
Yeah.
The minimum I can do. So we roll 1d4. They had gotten out of combat earlier in the session, and he had not healed himself.
Oh wow!
He had 1 hit point.
Did he know? Did he realize, or did he forget?
We all didn't. All of us at the table, so much had happened. He rolls the d4, and I'm thinking like, it's just minimal, whatever. He had 1 hit point. He rolls a 1 on the d4, and I was like, whoa, okay. You fall down flat on your face. Nobody's expecting it's going to be that bad. You break your neck on the stairs, and you're now need to roll for death saving throws.
Oh my god! So, hope somebody had some spells left.
Yeah, and so thankfully they did. They stabilized him, but they didn't bring him to consciousness. And so he just kind of had to ride out the next 20 minutes of the session unconscious. And it was, I think, a really great lesson learned for him as an individual, let alone as a player. But it also just narratively, it was like, what is happening? So much happened. You think about it, if you were to animate it, this player just going in, trying to swoon this lady of the guard, and just face plants, but doesn't just face plant and embarrass himself, snaps his neck and is now struggling for his life. It was wild.
Charlie, let me say two things to that. One, people unfortunately fall all the time, and you can die, you can hit your head. In the Dungeons & Dragons movie, there was a warrior getting out of a bathtub that they talked to Ray's dead in the movie, and they were trying to find his helm. He slipped and fell. He hit his head. He's I died. I hit my head. Yeah, that happens in real life and in movies. But it's just funny because I kind of picture him trying to walk up and sweet talk or kiss the captain of the guard. But if he was that injured, I mean, he must look like pretty beat up, like black and blue, and some blood on his lip, and he's got, a slash mark. It's like, dude, what are you trying to do? Take a rest. So, thank you for sharing that story. That's awesome. We're coming up on our hour mark here. I know you said how to go. Charlie of the Ink GM, thank you for coming on. I appreciate that. We can find you Inked GM. That's on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, YouTube. On Twitch, you are Inked Game Master. And I didn't put it on a banner, but let's add to the stage the Story Crafters. What is the information for that? And that'll be down below also in our links.
Yep. So it's the_story_crafters. And you can find it in my bio or the other co-hosts, Jeff Rogers Gaming, Game Master Mom, Nicole, and World's Okayest Crafter Jared. You can find them all there. And they're a great group of people. Just like this, I'm very honored to be here and have your time, Roy. So thank you so much. And they're a wonderful group of people. And we would love to have you and your friends come on anytime you want.
Yeah, I think DM Evanson and the Dead Professor Scott, we're all basically dungeon masters, game masters on both sides of it. Dave runs most of it, but we all run different things. And we play different role-playing games, try to focus on D&D.
Yeah.
This is Ink GM. This is a QR code. I just learned, I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons for over 40 years, but I just learned that if you take a screenshot of this and save it in your photos, you can then long press on it if you have the iPhone, and it'll take you right to the link. So
there you go.
That was magic to me. That was some modern day magic, and maybe that's magic you would even find in the Arcane Apocalypse. That might be some magic there. And we'd love to have you back on when you're ready for that Kickstarter or even chat more about it. So we'll end it here. Charlie, thank you so much. Stay in the green room and I'll give you some information. And any last parting words to our fellow adventurers?
Yeah, thank you everyone to listening. Make sure you like and subscribe and follow their podcast here and all their fun adventures. It's a huge blast and an honor to be a part of it. And to everyone listening, I hope your next roll is in your favor.
Yep. And the last thought, which I forgot to say, let the dice tell the story, and that's exactly what happened with that bard.
Yeah.
He was meant to roll that one, just like some people call out a 20. He was meant to roll at 1, and that was his story, and I think that's hysterical. So thank you for sharing that.
Best part was he wasn't even a bard; he was a sorcerer.
There's your problem right there. I love it. All right, Charlie, have a good night. Thank you.
You too.